My name is Haley Balderas, and I am doing my infomercial on psychedelics, specifically LSD. So let's give a little bit of background. LSD was first synthesized by a Swiss chemist named Albert Hofmann, and this was part of a larger effort to create new medication, but there was no specific therapeutic application in mind. It wasn't until 43 that Hoffman discovered its powerful effects when he accidentally ingested a small amount. In the 50s and 60s, LSD started to gain attention because of its potential for psychotherapy and for understanding the mind. In the 60s, there was an increase in concern about its safety, and in response, in 65, it was classified as a Schedule 1 drug and it made it illegal to use. So just for a little quick introduction, LSD is a potent psychedelic drug, and it's known for its effects on the perception, mood, and cognition. And it actually acts on serotonin receptors in the brain, which causes those altered sensory experiences. Um, a lot of people find this to be deeply transformative or have some kind of spiritual meaning, and it typically lasts between 8 to 12 hours. So let's talk about the effects of LSD. Some unknown effects include dilated pupils, an increased heart rate, nausea, loss of appetite, tremors or muscle weakness, increased sensitivity to sound and light, changes in motor skills, and so on. Some effects that are a little bit more well known and might actually be the reason for use include visual and auditory hallucinations, altered sense of time, distorted sense of reality, euphoria or extreme happiness, increased emotional sensitivity, enhanced creativity and thought patterns, altered perception of self, which is also known as ego death, which is where somebody loses their sense of self and start to feel more connected to everything around them, as well as anxiety or paranoia, and spiritual or mystical experiences, which is one of the biggest drivers for LSD use. So let's talk about the consequences. The use of LSD can range from both short-term and long-term consequences depending on frequency, dosage, and individual factors, and this would include things like brain chemistry, which is all genetic. In short-term users, some may experience bad trips. This can be really intense anxiety, confusion, paranoia, or fear. And sometimes this distress may persist long enough to make risky behaviors more prominent, as well as poor decisions while under the influence. So, while LSD is not considered physically addictive, frequent use can result in psychological dependence and tolerance to the drug. Um, so they continue to achieve those same effects. Long-term consequences can include persistent changes in perceptions, such as hallucinogens persisting perception disorder, which is called HPPD. This is where users experience visual disturbances even after the drug use has left their system. So when we're talking about reduction, we have to talk about it in a public health perspective because that's kind of the broader way that it's targeted. So from a public health perspective, the reduction in LSD use is primarily focused on minimizing the risk associated with its misuse, and this can include psychological harm, accidents, and long-term mental health effects. Um, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, recognizes the potential dangers of psychedelic substances like LSD, particularly in terms of their unpredictable psychological effects and the risk of what's known as bad trips, which can lead to anxiety, panic, and dangerous behaviors. So essentially, in doing this, we focus on educating the public, doing more research, and bringing that back to the public. So basically, doing little infomercials, such as what we're doing right now, talking to colleges, talking to people, just kind of getting the broader message across is the way that the CDC and other public health organizations contribute to the reduction. Just for a little conclusion, um, ultimately LSD has a complex and evolving role in both the scientific research and popular culture, since it was synthesized in 1938. And it was initially explored for its potential therapeutic uses. However, it quickly became recreational, for its effects such as mystical experiences, hallucinations, euphoria, and ego death. Um, and while these physical effects are relatively mild, the mental and emotional experiences can be overwhelming and unpredictable, which can lead to potential risks such as psychological distress or long term conditions, like we spoke about, HPPD. And again, from a public health perspective, LSD's legal status and widespread use during the 60s raised concerns for its safety, which again led to its classification as a controlled substance. So essentially, we just want to understand that while there is a big allure to LSD for what a lot of people really enjoy or consider cool effects, it's actually very dangerous to your brain chemistry and it can really, really have a long lasting impact. So it's important to consider this and spread this knowledge so that other people understand what they're getting themselves into. And then these are my references.